Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, SCORE, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. Megan Van Cleve, welcome to Best in the Desert, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes. Formerly Megan Phillips. I just got married 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So, name, but I love it. So
That's awesome. I don't know what happened to the volume, but it dropped.
let me see. Am I still good?
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect.
So, Megan, you seem to be the face of Best in the Desert and seem to be running the show over there. Let's get a little back history on you before we roll into Best in the Desert in a whole. How did you get involved in motorsports?
So I was born in desert racing. I think I was 2 weeks old at my first race. My dad raced my motorcycles my whole life. And my mom helped run Best in the Desert back in the early 90s. She was actually employee number one. So it's kind of cool to be able to continue that fashion. So I mean, my background's in retail management. I was selling cell phones to military installations. I ran 18 locations and had 70 employees and was traveling all over. And it was just a lot trying to raise kids and a family and maintain some sort of social structure. And I stepped down. So when I got the opportunity to come back and work here in 2020, it was a dream, because this job is, I have so many opportunities to go to so many incredible places. I get to go hang out in the desert all day, and at the end of the day, look, I mean, I answer the phones, but Brian's running the ship. He is as the son of the former legendary Casey Folks. He's got some big shoes to fill, but he does a great job at making sure that we're moving in the right direction. He's the owner, obviously, and in the last year or so, he stepped in as a race director, and so now my job is to make sure that I can provide whatever help he needs. He tells me to do something and I get it done. So yeah,
that's awesome. So, being involved in motorsports all your life, this is kind of a dream job.
It's funny. When I first met my fiance, he's obsessed with all things motorsports, and he's a diesel mechanic, so he's just always loved that life. And so when I first met him, we had talked about something, and I was like, "Oh yeah, my parents used to work used to work with us in the desert, and they, we were there right at the beginning." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you are." Okay. So when I got the call to come and work here, I was like, "Hey." I tell you, he was like, "You were serious?" And I was like, "What, did you think I was lying?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Not at all." He was like, "I was hoping it was true." He was like, "But I just was a little weary." And he's like, "This is so cool." He loves it just as much as I do.
So
No,
so on race weekend, he's there with you.
all day.
Wow. That's
Around as I'm on the phone with a million different people, or helping run a pit, or helping fix the vehicles. So it's definitely something we can do together, which is amazing.
your volume is all over the map.
I'm gonna maybe. Okay, is that better?
That's way better.
Okay.
Way better. It was weird because you turn your head and it was good, then you turn your head back and it wasn't. But that's cool.
I
So
talk with my hands a lot, so I apologize.
that's okay. Um, one of the things that brought on our conversation, let's just get to the nuts and bolts of it if you don't
Yeah.
mind, is I talked to multiple different racing associations and multiple different racers. And one of the things that all of the racers are saying, and all of the people that, basically participate in your events as sponsors, is there's no.
Are you ready for your next vacation adventure? Step into the heart of Arizona's natural splendor with a tour of Antelope Slot Canyon. Ideal for photography enthusiasts and nature lovers, our tours offer a unique journey through a landscape sculpted over millions of years. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone. We're going to have to do it. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone formations where every turn reveals stunning light displays, geological marvels. Secure your spot now at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and prepare to be awed by the canyon's mystical beauty. For details, please visit us at antelopeslotcanyon.com.
There's no media support. We can't find you. We can't find stories. We're not getting the same reach on being able to schedule a race, or, there used to be flyers. There used to be all of these things that before the internet, we could show a customer, we could show a potential racer that they could find a way to find you.
Yeah.
We can go to your website, but how many people want to search for a website?
Right.
It's just not done.
I think the social media is such a challenge, but it's so we utilize it as best as we can. Right before Silver State this year, we had sat down. We have an excellent marketing team. We use fall advertising, and they're incredible at putting together all of our press releases. Our website developer designs all of our content. Scott Sosha, he's amazing. So we have weekly meetings with our media team. And then Brian, make sure he leads all that. And but right before, about 3 months before Silver State, we really took a step back and tried to see how do we best utilize social media to get the most content out as possible, right? And so we put together this literally a schedule. But 6 weeks out, we start posting, once a day. So 5 weeks out, we start posting, twice a day. Press releases go out at least once a week. So we kind of build this marketing plan to try and maximize the potential reach. I know in the last 2 weeks it's been a little quiet, but I got married and I wasn't able to get stuff posted. But I mean, I think leading up to Silver State, we definitely had a better presence than we have in the past. because we're just trying to be consistent. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to go hard on Vegas to Reno. You know, we've got it coming up in August, and we want to try to maximize that exposure again, you know, and get as many, as many people the information that they need. One of the things that you and I had talked about earlier was flyers. And back in 2021, we did a World Hare and Hound Championship, and it was actually we brought back one of the original races that started Best in the Desert, and we got a bunch of flyers made, and I found the names and numbers and addresses of over, I think there was like 90 different motorsport shops all across the Southwest, and called every one of them to try to say, hey, can I send you some flyers? And everybody was very receptive of that. Unfortunately, I've not been able to do that again, just time and things. And but I think that's something that we really want to try to get back into. You know, I walk into some of these small towns, and they've got our posters from, you know, the 90s up on the wall, and they stay there, and it's case in point. You know, I really think that we want to get back to that. We did used to mail out a lot of stuff. I think we found that with the cost of printing and the cost of postage, it was easier to get it out online. But I mean, there are a few people that we do send mailers to. But yeah, I definitely think that we're building a plan. We're working on the right things, and Brian is always talking to different marketing people and different different sponsors, and trying to get the word out that those edgewise that way as well.
What about a schedule poster for the whole year that you make, and then send that out to all your potential racers? You know, like, we have no way of getting anything unless we pull it off online.
Right.
And offense, I'm not going to print a schedule and post it in my store for your schedule. I may
Right.
put it on my website, but I'm not
Right.
going to, you know, put it on the counter. Walk-in trade is not something that, you know, we don't promote a lot of walk-in trade, but
Right.
that's what I'm getting at is, you know, there are a ton of dealerships that still have a lot of walk-in trade that
Yeah.
would increase numbers, you know,
Yeah.
for the four-wheeler motorcycles and even UTVs.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely not wrong. So this first quarter, I went to dirt expos and NGPC races, and to arena cross, and to all of these different outdoor off-road events, you know, for motorcycles, and even for the dirt expo. And at every one of them, I brought a stack of 500 of our schedules and passed them out. You know, we got to talk to people who we would never have seen before. You know, I think that really has helped with the motorcycle entry count getting a little bit higher, because I've talked to people who didn't even know what we did. But we got to reach those exposure because we went to a different, you know, organization, it's not off-road. You know, NGCP races are a little bit more course based, whereas ours are desert. But you get the guys who, they want to try it, you know, they just don't know how to get into it. And so that's why we brought the schedules. And then for every one of our entries, I always put a schedule in. But I do think that's a really good idea to send those out to those shops, because we get them printed on nice paper, you know, and just send them out, and then they can post those, and then it's going to help the whole year.
You know, one of the things that, you know, you and I spoke about is ATV-TALK's always available. If you have a flyer or you have something that you want to promote, send it to us. We will post it on all of our pages, you know, Instagram, you know, Facebook, all of our different Facebook pages. I think we have 4 of them, and we can get them all out there and help, because there's people that follow me that don't follow you, or that don't necessarily, you know, subscribe to Best in the Desert, so they don't see it. You know, in a whole, I think that the industry needs to do better to support everybody. I think we all have gotten reliant on our websites, and reliant on, it's not picking up the phone, but we lost that word of mouth chain a little bit.
Right. That personal cook. Absolutely. one of the things that we're working on is putting together a call list. One of the things that Casey was really good at was calling racers directly and just saying, "Hey, do you want to come to my race?" And they're like, "I wasn't planning on it, but now that you called, sure." So Brian's taking a lot of the responsibility on and making those calls, because it is important, that creating that personal bond, so that it's a camaraderie within a promoter is huge. I've made a ton of really good friends, like Brett and Jen, Zach, Jason Zittel, Goob, and every single one of them told me that they needed to get on here with you. And so,
Well, I appreciate that from them, and you know what? I'm a fan of Best in the Desert, and I'm not taking away from any of the other series. I got to race Best in the Desert a number of times, and we raced professionally for 2 seasons myself, along
yeah,
with all the other professional teams that we raced with and had riders. It's a lot of fun.
yeah,
Vegas, I think is one of the greatest races on the planet. If you ever get a chance to race it, anybody that's listening, you have to come and race Vegas to Reno, because
yes,
it's phenomenal. Some people say that it's Jeep trails. No, it's still racing, and
yeah,
there's things out there. There are things you will see in a Best in the Desert race out in the middle of the desert, and you will not believe it.
no,
There's things out in that desert that there's so much beauty out there. It's unbelievable.
oh,
But
absolutely,
I don't want to get off track too much. You brought up Casey Folks, the legend.
yeah,
I feel sorry for Brian. I don't know if you could ever fill those shoes. He's going to have to create his own legend in his own way. Uh,
absolutely,
Casey, when I started racing Best in the Desert, it was a promotion of motorcycle racing, and he enjoyed the ATVs. He wasn't a huge ATV fan, but he welcomed us and brought us in under the motorcycle banner.
yeah,
Trucks were there, but he didn't make a huge deal about it. And somewhere along the way, it changed.
yeah,
I know that UTVs and trucks are a huge market for Best in the Desert, and they're
yeah.
huge sponsors. And I know it's all about money, but the touch there with the motorcycle people and the ATV people was lost.
Well, I would agree. I think our definite focus is, I hate to say it, but it comes down to the bottom line, or the bottom dollar. And cars and trucks and UTVs, they're more expensive entries, right? So we do need those to sustain. And with the motorcycles, the one thing that we did this year was we dropped entry fees by 35%. So I mean, they went down quite a bit. Almost every entry fee from last year is down is lower. Because we want those motorcycles to come back. We want the quads to come back. We want to have that ingrained level of where we came from, and to continue on being able to put on motorcycle races. Brian was a professional racer for forever. And so he knows what it's like to live within that motorcycle career life. And then he moved to cars and trucks. But we want to keep the motorcycles. And that's why we lowered the entry fees. But unfortunately, it's kind of a toss, because the cars and trucks, they bring in increased exposure. We've got a ton of social media coverage. They're bringing their own drones and helicopters. So it adds in that extra little flair. So we have to be able to make everybody happy, which is entirely impossible. But no, I do think that with the motorcycles, and that's why I've gone to these NGPC races. That's where motorcycle racing has always, and quads has always had a special place in my heart. Like I said, my dad raced my entire life. And we're really trying to get that back.
I think that, with like the Greenholts and Vital Motorsports, the way
Yeah,
they present videos, that's helping.
absolutely.
One Speed, they're trying to help as well with some of their videos, takes on it. Partnering with those people and making the experience what it is, they're so excited, they're going to bring more entries.
Absolutely.
One of the questions I had that has nothing to do with promotions. When did you guys feel it was okay to let three-wheelers back into your world?
Oh my gosh. So, so here's what happened. Okay. So in 2020, so brought back the world here now, right? And that was in 2021. And at that race, brought Ringel Googler. And within that race, he was going through tech and had mentioned to my husband Nick, and Nolan, our motorcycle tech at the time, that he asked this about, he's like, hey, what do you guys think about three-wheelers? And both of them just lost it because they're like, that would be so cool. Oh my gosh, that'd be rad. But they're like, obviously I had to talk to Brian because we can't make that decision. And so they came to me and they're like, how do we present this? And I'm like, well, you need to talk to Brian. And Brian told him we need a minimum of 5. That's how a new class is started, right? Whether it's based off of wheels or engine size or anything like that. It's we have to have a minimum of 5 to just to be able to justify it, right? And we started spreading the news and saying that three-wheelers are back and three-wheelers are coming in. And David Ham actually won the championship for the first in 2022, and he has the first three-wheel championship of Best in the Desert, period. Because I think we had let them race at one point, but they were never included as a championship. And so we brought him back. And Rangel at his first Vegas Reno, right, Ironman, the whole thing. And it was the funniest thing because as he came into the finish line, he walked up to me. I walked up to him and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. And I went to go give him a hug, and Nick went to go shake his hand, and he showed us his hand, and it was just like covered in blisters. He was like, please don't touch me. So we brought back three-wheelers, and it's been cool. There is actually a gentleman, James Stokoker, who's going to be racing his three-wheeler. But I mean, he's an older gentleman, but he used to race back way, I think it was like the early, I think he's in late 70s. So it's a vintage bike. And he's super stoked about it. So I think it definitely gives it that little bit of flair and difference of what we have to offer.
Well, offering such a wide range of vehicles has got to be tough for your staff, you included. And man, bringing three-wheelers back has excited a large group of people. And I get to talk to them all the time,
Yeah.
which I'm fortunate as well, because we started in the three-wheeler era back in the 70s. Well, it actually started in 1969, let's be real. But we've been around since then. And it's awesome that you guys allowed that. It kind of sparked the three-wheeler racing again on the West Coast because Works allowed them, and I think that they probably took, your lead on that. They might have started first. I'm not sure. I don't remember the dates on everything, but it's pretty awesome that you guys do that.
Well, and I think bringing back the three-wheelers has kind of also helped grow our quad class as well, because people realize that it's not just about motorcycles. And I mean, in the last couple of races, we have had a way increased entry for quads. I think we had 5 at Silver State, and 5 quad pros. And so it's been really cool to see 3 and 4 wheels start to make their comeback with us.
I remember being on the line when there were 20 of us.
We're getting there.
Right. I mean, when you would look back and because they started us last, and there's still a long line behind you of all four-wheelers, I think it's going to come back slowly. A little bit of gas prices go down. That would help. That would help a little.
Amen. I think that would help everything. But
right.
No, I would agree. I would agree.
So in your Vegas to Reno that's coming up, is there anything different about Vegas to Reno this year that we could be looking at?
Yeah, so we have about 100 miles of new race course. One of the cooler things that we got to do last year was Brian and I sat down and put every map from I think early as back as we could go to find it, like literally a topographic or topo map, and we plugged all of the race courses back from I think 2005 into a database, and now we have every single race course we've ever run, and even ones that weren't ever included on the GPS are now on that file. So when Brian goes to build the courses, what he does is he opens the map and finds what looks like a cool course. Some of these trails haven't been ridden in, I mean, even before then, some of them haven't ridden in since the last, 20 years. And they've got, I think people saw that the most at Silver State. I think a resounding conversation that we had was that the course was not like it normally is. We didn't use as many fire roads and as many of the dry lake beds or any of the normal not any, but a lot of the normal courses, because we want to put that spin on it. We can race the same course over and over again, but the whole point of a Vegas to Reno or a Silver State is to test somebody and to test your abilities and to challenge yourself. And if you know where you're going and you know that the exact route, at that point, I mean, it's just a regular course. This year we've got 100 miles of new course that are just wicked. Brian did an incredible job putting this thing together. It's going to be 550 miles, 13 pits, and we're really excited about it. We're a little bit more in the mountains just because of everything with the rain over the last couple of years. And the unfortunate last minute course changes that we had to make due to the monsoons of August of the last 3 years. But we're prepared for this. So I think it's going to be awesome.
How do you guys prevent people going out and free running or messing with the markers that are put down for the events?
There's a couple different ways. I mean, one, when we release our like course map, that's just a basic PDF, just to be like a teaser, if you will. We don't indicate many roads, right? We tell you where the pits are, but then we don't try to close in so far so that you can see where the course is. And we don't release those until like a week or two prior to the race. So we still have our marking crews out when we release those to make sure that there isn't any pre-running done, because we'll be there and we'll see you. And then additionally for the GPS, we don't post the GPS until Monday before the race. Because I know for a fact that there would be people going out and pre-running if we posted it any sooner than that. I know we kind of were talking about doing some kind of pre-run. I don't think I'm not, I'd have to check with Brian, but I know for Silver State we did do a pre-run and everybody had a great time. And it was entirely off GPS. There was the only people who got the GPS were the ones who came on the pre-run. And it was a blast. It was really, really cool. And then as far as markers, we try to keep our markers up like a week before the race at most, just to make sure that people don't have time to go in and knock them down. Because for whatever reason, some people will. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of weird to me because I don't know, I want to hurt somebody because anything we're marking is there for a reason. But Vegas to Reno, I think we've got a pretty good support of the state of Nevada, and all of these small towns benefit so much by us going through their towns. We bring to the community such a financial benefit between, staying at their hotels or buying gas or they're visiting their restaurants. And there are a lot of benefits to us being there. And I think that they understand that and they want to make sure that we can continue coming back. So there's that mutual level of respect.
That's pretty cool. In 2017, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was 18, in Caliente.
Mm-hmm.
Myself and Craig Simmons were out driving to the pits so that we could familiarize ourselves with the area a little bit. And we see a motorcycle coming across the bottom of the desert out there. And we're like, we're going to catch a pre-runner. And we're like, waiting, we waited there just so the bike would roll up. And, he pulls up and he goes, "Hey man, how's it going?" And we like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah, we know what you're doing here.
And he goes, "Wait a minute. What are you doing here? I'm supposed to be here." And we all started laughing and he introduced himself. And then we go, "Oh, we feel pretty stupid now." It was Brian. He was out riding them with course markers.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean,
That's awesome.
before the race or the night before the race, and it was pretty awesome to see him out there doing it
Yeah.
and making sure that it was going to be a good event.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my most favorite places to go that's not
Mhm.
in Lake Estrino was Caliente. I really liked that
Yeah.
race.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom's actually born and raised, and my grandparents still have a house there. Unfortunately, they passed, but we kept the house. So I spent all of my summers and most of my holiday weekends in Caliente, celebrating, camping, going riding. I rode a quad for years, and I've spent a lot. It was quite funny actually going on the pre-run because I actually got to go and see the race course, so that was so cool. Because I don't normally get to go out. I see in the office, and so I got to see it on the pre-run as we were driving around. I was cracking up because I'm like, dude, I've been on these trails as a child. Like I went on some of these like little like one-offs as a kid, just exploring because gosh, there are so many trails and just beautiful area to traverse within Lincoln County. And it's so beautiful. And they really like us. I mean, I think that we bring we're bringing that financial benefit to the city of Cali.
Right.
And POH.
I want to also talk about your pre-running. One of the things that makes Best in the Desert so great is the fact that there is no pre-running.
Yeah.
And when we started with Casey, there was a pre-fun run like X amount of weeks before. And you could go on that. You could sign up for that. I don't know very many people that did.
Yeah. Yeah, we had so ours was 4 weeks before the race. And there were no markers. So it was literally I sent out a GPS, and we sent the GPS out to only the people who had registered for the pre-run. And they got to go, and then I sent them a KML, and we said, "May the force be with you. Follow the trails. Follow your GPS. Don't let your phone die because there are no markings." And when we did that, it gave everybody the opportunity to see the course. The people who wanted to go. The pre-fun run we haven't done it in the last couple of years. It's been too dry in Lincoln County, and we didn't want to ruin any of the county roads that we were going to be on prior to the race. So the BLM asked us to not do the pre-runs. So the fact that we got to do it this year was really cool. We ended up having the Lincoln County girls softball team serve us a spaghetti dinner after day one. And so we got to kind of hang out with the racers and spend some time and just talk and just kind of engage and have those conversations, because I feel like that's one thing that we pulled away from as well was getting time to sit down and talk to racers. At a race, Brian and myself, we are moving at full speed. I don't have time to stop and talk to people sometimes. People would come up and say, "Hey, Megan," I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I gotta go." But when we do these events and we do things like a pre-fun run or an after party or a campfire like we did at Golden State, it gives us an opportunity to have those conversations and to create a more personability behind the face of the ATV. But no, we don't do pre-running, and I think that kind of adds a little bit more of a challenge onto the race course. If nobody knows what it looks like, then follow the markers, follow the markers, follow your GPS if you've got one, and it just adds it more into the challenge.
I totally agree. I love it that way. I love it that way. It's makes it more stimulating too, because if you miss a marker or if, one did fall down and it's 2 miles before you see another, when you get a little excited, or you see a white back and you're like, I went the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm cold. You know, I lost your sound.
Oh, sorry. No, I agree.
Yeah, it's yeah, I got you now. It's just so much fun. I think interfacing with the riders is something that, Casey didn't just sit down and, and shoot the shit with you.
No.
Excuse the language if that's offensive, but um, he did talk to a lot of people
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was so approachable. Um, I believe that you will gain more racers and more participants with that open line of communication in those types of events.
Yeah.
Um, it's just getting everybody to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Losing Casey was a big shock to a lot of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I mean, he was at the finish line of every race till the very last one came through. And, he personally passed those pins out. He personally thanked everybody for being there. And it was it was a win for him to get the racers to the finish. And it was so cool to be able to, I've heard it from so many people that it was so cool to be able to get to the finish and see his face and be able to just shake his hand and talk about and he engaged in conversations. We talked about, what did you think? How can I improve? What am I doing? Brian is taken to doing that same exact thing. When he's at the finish, he makes sure that sometimes he'll start all the motorcycles because it's easy to get from anywhere after the start of a motorcycle, but then he'll have to leave the start a little early so that he can get to the finish to make sure that he greets every person that comes in. And he's the one that's passing out the pins. He's the one that's walking up and shaking everybody's hands, and he genuinely is looking for feedback. I know the last couple of races he's asked, quite a few people about, what did you think about the markings? Because he's been going out and putting out the markings, and he listens to that feedback and he takes it on and makes the changes that he feels like he is important, and leaves what he doesn't, but he always listens. And I think that's huge. And it's so important for him to be there and to, as the owner and, as the son of Casey, to kind of continue that tradition on.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a touchy subject, if you wouldn't mind. And I know we briefly spoke about this over the phone. I have my personal feelings. I don't want to leave that out of it. And I just wanted to talk about how you interact with the BLM and the forestry and these different government agencies that you have to appease.
Yeah.
How does that work for you guys? And are they as difficult as I think they are?
I think that people have absolutely no idea what it takes to get a permit. And it cracks me up, man, because people will be like, over the last couple of years, we've had some struggles. And now it's so funny because we'll be like 2 months away from the event and people are like, do you have the permit? Do you have the permit yet? Like, that's not how it works. There are so many steps that we have to take. Our permit process starts 180 days before we get the actual permit. So you're within the permitting process, but you don't have that hard copy signed until, Brian was just trying to tell me this story a million times, that he's literally watched his dad get the permit at the driver's meeting and walk up onto the podium and say, we got it. And that's just how it happens sometimes. There are so many things that we have to do to make sure that the BLM knows that we have everything, that we operate safely and efficiently, and that we're going on the right courses, that we're staying within, the appropriate OHV areas, which additionally, they have to be looked at by the BLM, by, environmentalists, and we have to maintain those rules. The one thing I will say is, Nevada, it has the largest BLM managed lands. And honestly, that is how we want it. Because when you look at places like Arizona, for example, Arizona has quite a few BLM managed lands, but they sold a lot of it to private property, right? But when someone gets a private piece of property, they don't want you to race on it. They don't want to let you cross their land. So they put up fences and they put up gates. And so now we've closed a trail. So quite honestly, I mean, we work with some incredible individuals. I mean, all across the board. And we have quite a few, we talk to the BLM at least once a week. They're very much in communication with what we're doing, and we keep them updated.
Dad, what was that?
Does the dryer make too much noise to,
Yes, it does.
okay,
Well, it's okay. We can edit this. It's all right. It's not live. I'll tell you when we're done, we can start it up, okay? That's my dad in his
Here.
dryer right next to, because I'm invaded his garage for this. But I apologize for that. Back to what it takes to get the BLM, and is there forestry involved in that, or is it just BLM?
It's just BLM. And that, and you know, it's okay. So in Laughlin, we have to deal with a couple of, we have to deal with the BOR. I can't quite remember for the life of me what it means, but there's another government entity. But for the most part, it's BLM, because anything with forestry, they don't want you racing through anyways. So we don't include those in our courses. So a lot of my piece in helping is making sure that when Brian puts together a race, I go through and check the parcels. I've gotten really good at mapping the last couple of years. And so I go through and I will take each parcel and look at what AP and what parcel and what is private, what is BLM, and how, you know, just to make sure that we're on the right place, that we're at the right, you know, on the right courses in the right areas. So we're not invading forestry. We're not invading, you know, the wild wilderness areas, because we want to make sure that those are protected. So in a nutshell, I mean, you know, I know that it seems like they're like the big bad BLM, but they're just doing what they've got to do to make sure that we can keep our lands open. You know, I mean, there's a of things that we've got to put together before we even get the permit. And one of those things is like an event operations plan, right? And that is originally it was like a 6-page document, and Brian busted his ass, excuse my French, to make sure that like we turned it into like almost a 30-page document, and it details exactly what we do with the races from start to finish. And what happens if something goes wrong, what happens if something goes right, who to call, who to contact, the schedule. I mean, it is detailed to make sure that the BLM is comfortable with what we're doing and that they know our every step. And I think that intricate communication between us and them is huge. And you know, we've really worked hard to build a good relationship with every office in the state of Nevada. And we're really excited. I mean, it's going, we're doing the right things, but it is an absolute process to get a BLM permit, and there are so many people who have no idea what it actually looks like, and it cracks me up when people, and they think that they do, and there's so much more to it.
Does it help that to get to know the people in those offices further, you know, like you get to work with them year in, year out, so they know what to expect from you, you know what to expect from them?
Absolutely. 1000%. And I think that was a lot, you know, Casey had a great relationship with each BLM office, and, you know, and then we've worked really hard to develop that level of relationship. You know, Brian talks to him all the time, and the first question is always, you know, what do you need from us? Because I think when we come to them with that mentality, and when he asks them that question, we're getting them what they need, right? And we're not trying to figure out what to put where. They tell us we need this, this, and this, and this, and we say, okay, here you go. So it makes it a little bit easier that way, but like they wouldn't answer those questions if we didn't build that relationship. But yes, it is crucial to have a good relationship with every member of the BLM, especially as a promoter.
So people like myself can rest at ease that they're not out to get us.
Nah, you're good.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that you have a positive outlook with them, and that it makes someone like myself who doesn't know anything about them, that only hears the negative side of it, to
Yeah.
hear a positive side,
Yeah.
and that we can work with them and we're allowed to enjoy our deserts and off-road. I also
Yeah.
want to talk about something that, how do you deal with a race team, a racer, an individual, or whatever, that is not following the guidelines that for us to be allowed to race, so that they're breaking those rules? How does Best in the Desert handle that?
I mean, ultimately Brian is the only person that can assign a penalty or any kind of disqualification or any kind of substantial or decision on what happens with a racer who's breaking the rules. There's different things for different people. I mean, obviously, fuel mats, right? Fuel mats are absolutely required in every pit, and racers know that. It's not. This is 2024. They've been using fuel mats for how long? And we have to use those fuel mats because the BLM does go into the pits and they are watching. And if we get in trouble for people not using pits, we have to be able to hold people accountable for that. Ultimately we get a list of we get lists of every infraction of anything at the end of a race, and from there Brian decides what is is it worth a conversation, or is it something that needs to be taken a little bit more serious. But following basic rules is crucial. And again, fuel mats, like that is a that's something that we have to do. We have to do better, because when gas gets on the dirt, it ruins. There's so many things with the BLM. They just want to make sure that the ecosystem with wherever we are stays intact, and it's it varies. if that
Punishment, the punishment varies from infraction to infraction.
Yeah.
Is what you're getting at. Okay, I know that's a difficult question to ask, because you have to have a specific incident with a specific individual
Right.
to really get into it. I don't think that it's stressed enough through the racing industry that we have to follow these rules so that we can come back and race next year or the
Yeah.
year after.
Yeah.
And Casey always used to tell us, if you carry it in, you carry it out.
Amen. Even aside from being a promoter, I love my desert. I'm such a desert rat. I had moved to Louisiana a couple years ago for a while, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, Cajun food has my heart forever. However, I missed the desert so much because I just felt so swampy, and I had to come back to dry land. And I spend every weekend out at Lake Mead, or we go off roading with my kids, or we're always doing something active outside. And if we don't take care of our lands, racing even aside, they're going to be destroyed. It is so gross, the amount of trash that I find just everywhere. And we have to have some sort of respect for the desert as a whole. And or just even deserts or forests or streams or river, wherever. If you, exactly like you said, if you pack it in, you pack it out. And don't just leave your trash laying around. Vegas is notorious for this, and I'll leave this one. But I can't even tell you the amount of trash that we find at the finish line at the rodeo center, and catheters. Oh my God, it's gross. It's so gross, and it's like, just pick up after yourselves. Take care of yourself. Keep your stuff together, and throw your damn trash away.
Do you think that could be something that would cause a disqualification?
I am not going to. I couldn't make that decision. That would 100% be Brian, and I couldn't even say whether or not. I mean, it would be taken very seriously. I think that there are a lot of people who we have our volunteers everywhere. And they're taking pictures of people who leave their trash. And I can't say if we would or we wouldn't, because it's not my job. But it would be taken very seriously.
Understood. Understood. I remember one year they got all mad, the truck guys did, because if you changed your tire, you had to take it with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Racing, how can we? Well, that's not our problem. You're taking it off and throw it into the desert.
Yep.
And we have to go pick it up.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
take it home, put
absolutely.
it back on your rig
Yeah.
and tow it out.
Well, and the guys who are cleaning the course, I mean, they're in Rangers. You know, they're in little course markings. I mean, it's hard for them to already have to pick up so much signs, and then on top of that, to find a tire, just throwing the tire on top of a stack of signs, and praying everything holds together until you have to go to the next pit, drop everything off, and then come back because now it's full. You know, and it's small things like that we could all as a community do better at, and making sure that we pick up after ourselves.
I totally agree. Is there anything coming in Best in the Desert that we can look for and get excited about besides the greatest race of all time, Vegas to Reno, which I'm not just saying it, I love that race. And everybody that knows me, that's talked to me, knows that I love that race. What can we get excited about in the future here?
So we have Vegas to Reno, and then we have the Laughlin Desert Classic in October. And for that one, we're going to have historically we've done that as a 2-day race, and this year we're doing it as one. So it'll be obviously more laps to try to make up for that second day. But we're really excited. We're going to do the motorcycles and ATVs in the morning. And then throughout the day, we'll kind of just keep moving throughout, UTVs and the cars and trucks. And then we're going to have a night race. So we are planning on renting, I think, like 50 light plants or something crazy, and lighting up the whole infield. And we've got some really cool, we'll have more information out on that here soon. But pretty stoked about that. Next year we have the Nevada 1000, the Invitational. We haven't released too much information because we're keeping it close to the heart right now. But we are expecting to get a press release out here in the next couple of weeks that I think is going to blow everybody's mind.
Is that 1,000 miles one way, or are we going to do a up and back?
We've got a couple options.
You're not going to give it to me, are you?
We've got a couple options. We're trying to see which one works best. We'll know that probably closer to the end of summer. But there's a lot of really cool stuff happening with this race. Brian has worked his ass off to make sure. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. But he's worked really hard to put together this special event, and I think I'm really excited to see it all come to fruition. And it's been really hard to keep quiet about how excited I am and how just incredible this event is going to be. But we're holding off for right now until we get our first press release out.
That's okay. I'll be looking for that. I'm hoping that you'll reach out with some flyers so that
I got you.
can send them out for you, as far as on all of our social media platforms. In closing, is there some message that you would like to bring across to new racers and new people that would come and look for Best in the Desert, what they can expect?
Yeah. It sounds scary with new race. To message to the new racers is desert racing sounds terrifying. I mean, if you look at it from a bird's eye view, right? I mean, you're throwing you into the desert and you're going as fast as you can down a dirt road or down a dirt trail. But it is so rewarding, and we try to make the process so much simpler. We changed our registration total format to be entirely online, to include the liability forms, to include the registration forms. We went in paperless to just make it easy. I try to keep up on getting as much information out as we can. We have an entire FIP packet. We build a pit book to make sure that you have very detailed instructions on how to get from pit to pit. To also include, when there is a pit that you will not be able to make it from one to the next, your pit crew. we can tell you where to get, what's the best route for those. So I'm always here at the office. Brian's always here at the office. Anybody can call me anytime. I think there's more people than I've ever had in my life who have my cell phone number, who call me constantly. But we're always open and we're always available. And, we want to have that openness and that reachability. And I think that's huge. Because if people have questions, they need to be answered. And so call me, text me, message us on Instagram, email us in at bitd@bitd.com. Go there. We are available here, and we're available for any kind of resource anybody has. And Lenny, I am so thankful for you having me on this show. I have been trying to get on here for a while, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think it's outstanding that Best in the Desert wanted to promote themselves. And Megan, you're an excellent representative of the company. And I think that is amazing. And congratulations again on your wedding. I know that this all started when you were getting married. And I was like, well, hey, when she's available, no worries. I'm here, no big deal. And Brett and them made it sound like you needed to drop your wedding and talk to me, which is totally not the case.
Well, they had called, or they were texting me. They're like, "Hey, Lenny, what's you on the show?" And I was at the shark race, and I'm obsessed with aquariums, and I was crying over a stingray. I was texting him. I was like, "Please don't call me right now."
The team here at ATV Talk would love your feedback. Please email it. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.